Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of One-and-Done-athon Season 2 here on GDQ Hotfix. My name is Jay Hobbs, and I am your host for the first half of the day today, but I am going to get out of the way quickly because we have E's Memories of Celceta. See, I learned it. I figured out what it is. It's going to be run by GhostKumo here, and it's an incredible run. It's changed a lot over the years. So, GK, take it away, my man.
Hi, thank you very much, Jay Hobbs. Believe it or not, he couched for this run once, despite having never seen the video game.
I did, and it was significantly longer than it will be today.
Hi, everybody. I'm GhostKumo. I'll be your runner for the next 45 minutes, give or take. With me, I have the ghost of Primarix, because he was banished forever yesterday for having a run in the marathon.
Yeah, definitely not ban evading, but yes, Primarix here, and I'm a little rusty with this run, but I'll help out with explaining some of the tech you see, because it is a wild ride.
Yeah, so as alluded to, this is East Memories of Celceta. This is canonically a full remake of East 4, which was a game from like 1993, and it's the 4th game chronologically after Origin 1 and 2, but it happens before 3 because this series is told pretty much out of order. So this game was originally released on the Vita and ported to Steam in 2018, and I've been running this game since about 2016, back when it was on the Vita, and since then we've just eviscerated the entire video game. For anyone who's not familiar with this series, or who is familiar with this series, it's an action RPG series known for a lot of difficult boss fights, really cool music, a lot of crazy stuff. There's not going to be a lot of boss fights in this run. It's a very, very skip-heavy run, a little bit more tech-heavy. So the PC version comes with a number of quality of life upgrades, which improve performance of the game, make it go faster, but it also enables a great many of the skips that you're going to be seeing. The nice thing about this game is that they added a hyperspeed function for cutscenes, which makes running it really fast, but it does mean that there's not a lot of downtime between like the game's biggest skips, which tend to happen like all after one after another. So I'm just kind of getting the background stuff out of the way beforehand. But yeah, I'm basically good to get started whenever. I'll go ahead and just count down for the timer. When I say go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So, the character you'll be seeing here, this red-haired gentleman, his name is Adel Kristen. He's the protagonist of the East series, and this game basically takes place after a chance encounter with the god of this region called Celceta, where he lost pretty much all of his memories, hence the name of the game. And he's basically going to remember to defy all sorts of quantum physics for the rest of the run, because it is a wild kind of run. So here he's basically wound up almost dead, passed out in the streets of this town, wakes up in the inn, meets this blue-haired gentleman named Durin. He's going to be one of our party members. He gives him a little bit of background information on where he is, what all's going on here, and despite the fact that he doesn't remember anything, he immediately gets called to action to go save some miners in the town mine. So this is one of the party system East games. I would compare these games to the Mana series of games, Seiken Densetsu 3, Secret of Mana. Curiously, when they remade Seiken Densetsu 3 in Trials of Mana, as it's known in the West, they made it very similar to what East games are like, and I'm menuing very poorly here. So to give the basic general overview of combat here, I have an attack button. These moles are really annoying. I have an attack button, and then I have skills that I combine to the 4 face buttons. You'll see it on the bottom right indicator there. It tells you how much SP it takes. 10 SP is noted by one blue ray of the little sundial on the bottom there.
Yep.
And I can max out at 100. So this whole section is just kind of a tutorial part here. But because this is Nightmare and the boss of this dungeon is a giant pain in the neck, I'm trying to get a bunch of protection here. So just got a flash guard there. I'll get a little bit more in detail when we get to the boss. So really quick, I'm going to be doing the first little skip of the run here in just a moment. You saw before I entered this dungeon, there was a little blue orb that I touched. That gives me access to the memories. Those usually give little stat bonuses and a bunch of story background information, but the key thing that they allow me to do is access the cutscene viewer. which resets my characters to a default position. So you'll see right here, I'm going to load this memory, and then my second character is going to be loading behind the door. Keep that in mind, because that's going to be a very useful thing that we can do in a couple other places in the run. Now, over to the left here, I don't normally go for this in PB attempts, but since this is a marathon, I want as much safety as I can get on the next fight, because the next fight is a giant pain in the neck. This is the first boss, and about the end of the intended portion of the run. So, Primarix, you want to explain kind of the general gist of how combat in this game works?
Yeah, for sure. So, Ghost here is going to be hitting the boss with basically a set combination of regular attacks and the basic skill, the Rising Slash. He's got this extra or like super attack that he filled up the meter for as part of a tutorial earlier and just didn't use it. And then he's also doing flash guards and in some cases flash dodges. Like right there, the flash guard is going to nullify the attack, basically block it and give him increased damage, kind of mini crits for a short amount of time. And the flash dodge does something similar, except you get kind of a bullet time where you're moving much faster than the enemies. And you can do both of these at the same time. That's known as a simul flash. I believe that's a feature that was actually added to this version of the game.
Correct. It wasn't originally on the Vita version.
Right.
So you see what I'm actually doing is spamming Flash Guard here. That actually replenishes my extra skill meter, which is the little yellow circle on the bottom. And this is actually an incredibly good first fight, because not only did Durin not get reduced to 1 HP, so we can keep hitting the boss, when AI party members can't die, but when they're at 1 HP, they stop attacking, and I really want his damage here. I was also able to get the stun before this boss does the rock falling attack, which is a really annoying attack that wastes a lot of time, so that was really solid.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you also noticed real quickly, just interjecting, we only get up to level 2 from that. That's because I believe on the Nightmare difficulty, the hardest difficulty in the run, you actually get less experience. Doesn't come to play a whole lot because he doesn't fight very much, but yeah, it is a factor.
Yeah, so that's basically the end of the intended portion of this game. So the Governor General of this town thanks us for what we're doing and asks us to go on a big daring mission to explore the region of Celceta and map it out. Keyword being map, because the map is the most broken thing in the game that we just get now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to text storage off of this NPC here. Now, text storage is a very complicated thing. You'll see I have a text box on the screen, and this is going to utterly break this game. So what I do is I talk to an NPC and open the menu on the exact same frame, which allows me to go into the map, which the thing about the map is it advances the game a few frames. I'll explain what's going on in these cutscenes here, because I got to do this again. But that allows me to actually move with a text box on the screen, and that does a whole bunch of different things, including if I carry it off to another screen, I'm able to actually advance the game a significant amount, because I can force events to happen that aren't scheduled to happen. This scene right here is a reunion scene that happens about 40% of the way through the game, where we reunite with our third-party member. Her name is Karna. She's really useful for a lot of things. But she joins at level 1, so she's pretty useless for the run, outside of the fact that I need her for one context-sensitive overworld action in the second dungeon of the game. But yeah, so the map is very broken, because anytime you open the map, it advances the game outside of the map by a few frames, but the game still treats you as being in the menu. You can do all sorts of janky things by opening and closing and reopening the map, which is what allows me to have this text box on the screen here. Normally I keep this obscured by holding the R1 button, but I just kind of want to have this on screen to demonstrate what's going on. Anyways, the main benefit of having this text box on the screen right now is all triggers are just avoided. I don't have to fight anything, or I don't have to fight any forced encounters. I don't have to do any cutscenes. It's really, it's quite neat.
Yeah, it makes for a very clean trek to the second dungeon of the game, which I guess we actually have to glitch our way into a bit as well using this text box, but just makes it so that we don't have to do any of the other glitches you used to have to do to get past without watching a lot of cutscenes and optional, or not optional, but like story scenarios.
Yeah, there actually is a skip that we could, in theory, do to skip past this bridge, but we actually skipped that because With text storage, not having to do the cutscenes actually saves me like a bunch of time on having to perform this skip. It ends up only saving like a second or two in practice, but this skip can be easily failed and easily waste more time than that, so the consistency improvement is nice. So the way this area works here, this forest, I need to go the correct path or it loops me back to the beginning, so it's kind of a Lost Woods type deal. The correct path is noted by whichever one has the white flower. I seem to be getting Slack notifications. I apologize. I'm going to pause for just a second here and get rid of a background program. Oh, that's unfortunate. I lost my text storage. That's okay. I can get it back. There's a backup. Technical reasons caused me to lose a little bit of time. That's a disappointment, but that's fine. Haven't had to do this text storage in a long time.
Oh yeah. At the so this is the camp leading into kind of the first area that we really get to.
Yes.
Leading up to the second dungeon.
Mm-hmm. So the camp's tied to a memory event and gives like a flashback and whatnot, but since setting up the tent is an interactable object, we can do text storage off of it. Unfortunately, I can't actually use my controller for it, so I have to use the mouse, which is slow.
Yeah.
I also need to make sure I don't hit set up a tent or I will die. But yeah, so we're skipping basically the entire setup of the second dungeon, which is we go to this giant treehouse town in to the northeast of here. That's where Karna's from. That's normally where you're supposed to get her at her usual level. But we skip having to do that because text storage allows us to skip the game to a state past the third dungeon. So the only thing that I need to go to the second dungeon for is to get a useful accessory.
Yeah, and specifically by accessory, we're talking about key items that will let you perform various actions on the overworld. This one is going to be the dwarf bracelet, which is going to shrink the party down, allow you to go through areas that might have like a small hole or a small crack that you have to navigate through in particularly kind of the midpoint dungeon of the run. And it's also going to be useful for dying, because it actually makes you take even more damage than you already would on Nightmare.
Just being extra careful there. So the reason I needed a text storage there is because the game is set to a state after having beaten the third dungeon. I can't actually do context-sensitive actions, so I need a text storage so that it reverts that screen to its effectively its default/primal state, and allows me to interact with the suspended cocoon that sort of serves as a bridge. That overworld action that I have Karna, I need her for exactly like one thing, or exactly two things. One, to get into this dungeon to get something that I need for exactly one thing, and then two, for that next dungeon, which could in theory be skipped otherwise, but oh god, go away, B. That's very bad. I have my rotor droplet. Okay. I've had to do this before where I exit the dungeon, but that backup's it's not usually where I use that backup, but the fact that I had it, the fact that I had it was handy. So normally I'm supposed to avoid aggroing the wasp there, but I aggroed them a little bit too far.
Yeah, and you can't use those overworld actions while you have an enemy right on top of you. So that was why he got attacked and ended up, dying in one hit, because that's pretty much what you do.
I love how dramatic the somersault roll is in this game, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, please no aggro. Thank you. Oh my god, go away! I've had the worst luck aggroing these bees.
Yeah, the bees are coming back with a vengeance after we cut them out of the run.
Yeah. All right. The nice thing is I can heal this paralysis here. All right, so you want to explain the B skip here, because I can't.
Yeah.
I have to focus for this.
Oh yeah, of course. So basically, what we're doing here is rolling a character onto the trigger for this boss fight, and then swapping away. I believe we're just taking a second try at this here. So characters that are not your lead character cannot actually activate the triggers, and we take advantage of that by then viewing a memory and swapping to that character, and I believe opening the map in order to basically trigger it from inside the menu and do some more map shenanigans to just be able to move during the cutscene, and we can just get all the way out of that arena during the cutscene and prevent it from happening.
Yeah, so we just use the cutscene viewer to like mess with our position.
Yeah.
While we move an ally on the boss trigger, and then menu to the memories. So if you missed what happened there, in layman's terms, I use menu magic to get on the boss trigger, use the boss's intro animation to skip some stuff, and then cancel the boss by loading a memory.
Right.
And we just completely skip the second dungeon's boss, because we have exactly what we need from the dungeon.
Yeah. All we need is that dwarf bracelet. We don't have to actually finish the dungeon, and certainly wouldn't want to. So fighting that boss is not required, and in fact, it's actually to our advantage to not fight it.
We are level 2. We would not stand a chance.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, so this is Misty Peak. The gimmick to this area, it's a similar lost width type deal. Go the wrong way, you end up back on the first screen. But the gimmick to this one is I need to always be going downhill. Now, the game is currently set to a state just before the 4th dungeon. Despite the fact that we haven't come here. This is normally where the 3rd dungeon is. We're supposed to pick up our 4th party member. We're never going to do that.
Yeah.
But I view this cutscene here, and then I'm going to go talk to this NPC, and by talk, I mean text storage. You all know the deal by now.
Yeah, and we'll get the occasional glimpse of the 4th party member when he shows up in later cutscenes where we're supposed to have him. But that's really it.
So yeah, we need this because the next screen, there's a cutscene on this next screen that I don't want, so that's why I'm text storaging here. But also, by holding the text box until I get to the 4th dungeon, I can activate its trigger on the door. We used to, and actually some other categories still do, clip into this dungeon, which is another way you can do it, because water is busted in this game, because everything is busted in this game.
Oh, yeah.
But text storage kind of eliminates the need for that.
Yeah, so basically, even though we don't have the requisite, I guess, parts or progression items to start this puzzle, we can just kind of force this cutscene to happen and complete the puzzle and just go right in through the front door.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the underground ruin, this 4th dungeon that we're entering, is pretty much just going to be a lot of movement, a little bit of swimming and using the dwarf bracelet to shrink ourselves down. That was the item we picked up in the previous dungeon. And
yeah,
then,
real quick, so we actually don't have the ability to swim underwater, but we have a couple ways to circumvent this. Huge shoutouts to Zelnu for finding this, because this was a barrier for like half a day, and he came up with something that made this work. So this saved us a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So we're going to use the dwarf bracelet, load the memory here, which is going to cause my characters to actually fall in the water. And because like they spawn just above the water and they're small, so they fall in just far enough that I can get underneath that ledge there. So I don't need to actually be able to dive underwater, because my characters apparently don't know how to swim. Other than Adol, in fairness to the other two, I don't know that they've ever been around large bodies of water in their life canonically, so I could understand how they only know how to tread water. So anyways, this is one of two things that I need the dwarf bracelet for. Technically there's 3, but there's one that we have figured out a skip for and one we haven't. This dungeon music slaps, by the way. It's a shame we don't get to listen to more of it. So there's a little skip that I can do on that screen to save about a second by being big in this dwarf bracelet tunnel, but it's kind of tricky and I don't feel like going for it. So I'm going to skip the next boss here. There are like 4 different ways to skip boss triggers in this game. So you've seen one, now we're going to look at another one. So I'm going to get up to about the 3rd step, and then I'm going to use my extra skill, which is going to cause Adol to move forward. Because AIs can't trigger boss fights, he just skips past the trigger, and we switch to another character, wait for him to get past the trigger, switch to Adol, and then switch to another character once the AI has moved past the trigger. And that is how we skip the 4th dungeon and its boss. That boss sucks, by the way.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Thank God we don't have to deal with him. So there's a gravestone here that we can text storage off of. You'll notice that it has a particular name on it. Basically, so one of Adol's dreams, like memories, was that he visited this thunder tower on a hill. Hey, it's right up there. And so that was kind of our destination for where to go next. There's a town at the south base of the hill here. So the people there knew Adol because Adol's already explored all this region before he lost all his memories. And they found this thing called the Mask of the Sun on, like, just floating around. And the thing about the Mask of the Sun is it's the dark, powerful MacGuffin that we do not want to let happen to fall in the wrong hands. So,
yeah, it sure
because they
would
saw
be a
that,
shame if there was a character who just gives it to the wrong hands later on.
Yeah, so the Mask of the Sun, because they see it, they figured there was no way Adol would have left this. They just presumed Adol was dead. But we text storage to skip all Highland Town. That's the name of the town. We text storage to skip all scripted events, which there's a lot of doing nothing in that town in the story. A lot of cutscene.
It is a lot.
Yeah, it's several minutes, so we just skip doing that. So we're going to come up to this area, and if you've ever played Final Fantasy X, you might be familiar with this type of gameplay, but we're going to be dodging lightning.
Yep, so the way this works, basically the tower off in the distance there is protected by a storm barrier, and how that manifests in the game is that there will be lightning strikes every 2.1 seconds, and if you're not in a kind of safe zone, then you die. And what we're doing here is just pausing when that global timer is about to go off, and the lightning does not strike while you're in the menu, but the timer still keeps going. So we basically skip the lightning strikes when needed, and also use this new character, Kalilica, to activate some of these pillars to give us a little bit of safe traveling through the rest of the region.
Yeah, so I only need to activate 2 of these lightning rods, but it's way more dangerous to do that than activate them as intended. So this is Kalilica. She's not really useful to this category, although she is a godsend in easy any percent. She's kind of the retainer of the god around here, and she activates the lightning rods. So I'm going to just skip past the entirety of the 5th dungeon.
Yeah, and an interesting effect that isn't going to come into play for a little bit, but I'll point it out now, is that the game is still basically set to consider any party wipe as us dying to lightning. So in the future, if we happen to take a death, it will warp us back there.
Yeah, to the base of the tower. Anyways, so there is a thing that's normally supposed to prevent us from being able to head off to the side there, but because we sequence break, all scripted events are scheduled in a sequence. So if you skip one, all the events after it don't play until you get to a memory cutscene, which just so happens to be the next thing after the dungeon. So yeah, we just skipped all of the 5th dungeon. And spoiler warning, that's not gonna stop anytime soon. We're gonna be skipping a lot of dungeons.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and we're also going to at least temporarily skip a town.
Yeah, we'll be going back there. That's supposed to be where the next scenario is. It's where we're supposed to chase after the Mask of the Sun. But we're going to do a very roundabout way of getting there. Instead of heading south, which is where we're supposed to go to get there normally, we're going to skip past it, past several triggers. So if you want to explain Out of Bounds and Coral Skip, I need to focus for this part more than any other.
Yeah, of course. So basically, using the water and swapping out characters, we can get out of bounds by reloading the character that was in water. And then using this memory viewer, the cutscene viewer, you can basically reset your party members, specifically the ones that are not your active character, to be a little bit up and to the left and right from where you are, the lead character. So this is going to, this is going to allow Ghost to basically kind of inch across the map and get to the loading zone for the next screen, which normally you would not be able to access.
9. I'm counting down, or I'm counting up to 12 of these because I need to perform this 12 times to get enough height and distance, but I'm basically just inching my way across the screen out of bounds.
Yep.
A little backwards to the left and higher on the Z-axis, so I'm going to do a quick save here just to make sure I got this right. That's good. All right. So I skip past like what's intended to be a shortcut backwards and use that as a shortcut forwards.
Yeah, very nice execution there. So yeah, and I believe now we're going up to the Frog mini-boss monument just to activate that fast travel point. Basically, the way the fast travel is working right now is that you can go up to a monument and travel to other ones of the same color, kind of within the same network. So that's just going to make it a little easier to get back there.
I apologize if my phone's going off in the background. I just noticed that. I'm sorry about that if you hear like a beeping noise. I'm going to be performing another text storage on a sapling here. Originally, this is supposed to be the first place we do it, but because I had to do a backup, this is now the second. But there's actually a cutscene tied to a side quest in this on this particular screen that also happens to have a warp attached to it. But that side quest has a reward of 25,000 gold, which is a lot of money. But by repeatedly hitting the trigger over and over, I can effectively re-trigger the side quest's ending scene without having to do the side quest like multiple times over. So I get more money than I'm ever going to need.
Yeah, and
I
interestingly enough, we don't even have access to the ability to do side quests in this village yet, but we can just force the cutscene to play and just kind of get warped to the end of it.
So I'm just picking up some healing for safety. Alright, so this is where we needed to go anyways. This is the town of Danon. It's where Durin is from. It's where this group of people called the Darklings, who kind of are the guardians of the Mask of the Sun in this game, reside. This is one of them. Say hello to Frida. She's meant to be the 6th party member of the game, and she's going to be the one that's going to be doing most of the work for the rest of the run, because she comes in at level 30. As you can see by Adel currently being level 2, nobody in my party is actively equipped for combat right now.
Yeah, so this is... so she's going to be really the only one that stands a chance, even against rather simple bosses, Soul Gobble 1 coming up right here.
Yeah, so this girl, she's one of the, I guess retainers of the god of this region, making sure that absolutely nothing bad ever happens with the Mask of the Sun is kind of her responsibility. Now, the god of this region is kind of... he's been possessed, by evil as part of the story, so he's actually the one that caused Adel to lose his memories in the first place. So she's kind of seeing to his errands. Anyway, this is Frida. She's really useful. She has a skill by default, bound to her triangle input, which does 40, uses 40 SP, but can hit this boss twice.
So
if I position it right.
A lot of the combat is going to revolve around just getting SP back in order to use this skill as much as possible and get those double hits to take down the boss quickly.
Yeah. Rather awkwardly, these two have the same voice actress, so if you're not familiar with this game, you might not know who's talking. So that's Saul Galba. she's making sure that absolutely nobody has access to the Mask of the Sun. And so she breaks the seal, and then the big bad of the game just swoops in. Thanks, Lisa. You are so helpful. The funny thing is, she is more helpful in the speedrun than she ever was in the story or in casual play. But you'll see how that works a bit later. Alright, so I don't have the ability to warp anywhere just yet, but what I'm going to quickly do is head on off to one of the warp points that I set up, which is where we fight the giant frog boss.
Yeah, so this is a...
We're not going to fight him just yet, but this is going to be the point where Primo alluded to earlier about taking a death.
Yeah, so, you know, a few things are going to come together here. We're going to use the dwarf bracelet to shrink down and just take, you know, lethal damage instantly from these attacks that the frog boss or his frog minions are going to throw at us. And yeah, once we completely party wipe, which just involves having the 3 active characters be at 0 health, then the game is going to warp us back to the tower as though we have been struck by lightning, because it's still kind of...
He ate my allies. So.
Oh,
okay,
no.
That's fine. That's a little slow, but I can still take the death as I need it.
Yeah, yeah, so instead of getting a game over screen, just get warped back, and now this allows Ghost to warp back to... well, it does 2 things. It lets us warp back to this area where there's a fight we like to do to get a key item to upgrade our fast travel.
Yeah,
and it actually allows this fight to trigger.
Yeah, so if you leave a boss fight for any reason, any screen that has a mandatory encounter automatically triggers that, and there just so happens to be one in Highland. This one is just a bunch of these like armed masked soldiers that run around with like chickens with their heads cut off. They hit really hard, but because I have Frida, who's like way higher level, I don't need to worry about them too much. A thing you saw me do there is a glitch that was added in the PC version. For whatever reason, Frida's strength buff skill can be flash guarded. I don't know why this works, but yeah, it kind of invalidates a lot of the combat in the run.
Yeah, so now we have access to, after this cutscene, the Golden Wing, which is going to upgrade the fast travel so that we're able to warp to any of the monuments in the game from anywhere. So immediately using this to go back to the frog fight, and this time we're actually going to fight it.
Yeah, this is one of the few bosses that are still left in the run that we actually have to take care of, because you need to do that to get a required accessory to beat the game.
Yep.
Alright, this fight royally sucks.
Oh yeah.
Historically been basically nobody's favorite fight of casual play. So I'm gonna heal my characters so that there's a chance that they learn skills in this fight while hitting the frogs.
Yeah, and specifically, if an allied character kills an enemy, like one of those frog minions, and learns a skill from leveling up, then that will restore your SP to full, which is going to allow stun locking the boss frog a little bit easier.
We got eaten. That's bad.
Oh.
Yeah, this fight sucks.
Yeah.
If you get, like, it's incredibly punishing, and it's part of the reason I buy so much healing. If this fight goes well, it doesn't look clean, and if it goes poorly, it looks terribly. So, alright, so I got him to spit her back out. And that is why I buy a bunch of healing. Now, the nice thing about this guy is he can be stun locked with the 10 SP skill. I really would like my allies to learn a skill because I really want SP.
Yeah.
Come on, this is just unlucky. I'm using so much of my healing on my idiot allies.
Right.
So attack, attack, spin. Attack, attack, spin. I'm going to use this to generate enough SP to use my extra skill. I appreciate anyone posting OS frogs for good luck. Well, the cool thing about Frida is she does have an AoE skill that does a lot of damage. I'd like to not use more healing, thank you. Yeah, note to anyone who designs action games, being able to freely use healing is actually the most busted thing. Alright, that's Frog. I lost about a minute compared to PB there because A, getting eaten, B, allies just not giving me any luck.
Yeah, I don't think you got any allied skill learns from that. That was... very unfortunate.
So by text storaging off of the chest there, I'm actually able to skip a little tutorial text box there. Alright, so now I have the Beast King's Claws, and these accelerate me about 12%. It's like 12% faster than the usual dodge roll, with a lot more grunting, 100% more grunting.
Yeah, and most notably, it's also going to break through some of these obstacles in the environment from this point on. So it's required for progression through this area to kind of the final few dungeons, of which we will do 0.
Yep. Alright. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the B by rolling onto the loading zone, loading up a memory, going to the map, and being able to move during the boss's intro animation, loading a memory again to just ignore the boss's trigger. We will be back here though, because I need to do a pretty significant skip to trigger the end game. This is where any percent and any percent nightmare differ quite a bit, because the last fight is kind of obscene to try and do at my current level. But yeah, there's one fight left in the entire run. We skipped the entirety of the last 3 dungeons, and I'll explain how in just a bit.
Yeah, right now getting the power ring here. This is going to be a piece of equipment that will buff Adol's attack for one fight in particular that at the end just going to make it
makes it way
less
faster.
of a headache. Yeah, and way faster.
You might have noticed that the item get jingle is the one from Metroid. It's just a silly little thing that happened with the very first Ys game. You can thank Yuzo Koshiro, the composer of the first Ys game. Probably more known for like Etrian Odyssey and Streets of Rage, but yeah, he just thought the one from Metroid sounded good. So I do believe we are closing this marathon on a Metroid run, so shout outs to that. But yeah, so this area here, the final dungeon's entrance is up above, but we were supposed to do like 3 dungeons to unlock it. But as with many things, we're going to do some text storage here. In fact, actually what we're going to be text storaging here is not for the final dungeon, but it's to be able to prepare for the final dungeon. This is so I can interact with the shopkeeper. Don't worry about any of these cutscenes, they're not really important. And this is going to allow me to... I'm going to buy 10 more bitter potions, just because... Wait, where did my money go?
Oh.
Did I burn through that much money? Oh, this is bad. Okay. I thought I had more money. I'm not really sure what happened.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I didn't follow it.
Where did my money go? I had like 150,000. This is strange. Oh, I am not sure what the heck happened there.
Yeah.
I hadn't been paying attention to that. Okay, so I can finish the run, thankfully, but it's just gonna make things a lot slower. Yeah, what the heck happened to my money?
I don't know, yeah.
saw it repeated the cutscene 6 times. I guess I probably just wasn't paying attention because this has never happened before.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. I apologize for that. I legitimately don't know what happened. This has never happened to me before. I will finish out the run, but this might end up going over estimate as a result. Alright. So, I guess I won't bother buying the extra potions. I probably won't need them. I bought them for safety because I just assumed I had more money than I was ever going to need and just wasn't paying attention to my money because I've never had a reason to.
Right.
Alright.
We like the improv strats on this marathon, so don't worry, you got this, GK.
I'm just trying to figure out where so I need 20k. Sell that, and then 3 of you. Alright. The run lives. Alright, cool. Anyways, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna do a similar trick with the previous boss. Oh shoot! I almost screwed that up. All right, so switch characters. I'm gonna load up the memories, and now this time I'm gonna load up the map. So during this boss's intro cutscene, I'm actually gonna be moving around, similar to a trick that happened earlier. But instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll up to the final dungeon. Using this boss's prolonged intro animation. And then as the screen fades to black, I'm going to go to the map in my menu. And then now you're going to see it fade to black. And then what this is going to do is it's going to trigger the cutscene that is supposed to trigger as we go into the entrance of the final dungeon. However, we can move during this cutscene. You can thank Giotto for this. You can thank Giotto for a lot of these things. He's utterly broken most of the series at this point. Like 5 games in the series, I think we're at now. But yeah, so this is going to be the scene that opens the final dungeon. Now, since I did all this during a boss's intro cutscene, the game still thinks that I'm in a boss fight. And a curious little quirk about the final dungeon of this game is you beat the final dungeon, you fight what feels like the final boss, and then there's an escape sequence afterwards, and then you have to fight one more fight later. The escape sequence actually happens to be tied to an encounter on this first screen here, so we're just going to skip the entirety of the final dungeon. Oh god. The problem is these enemies don't like to cooperate. Come on.
Yeah, so this fight is, like Ghost said, going to be, or it is the one that is supposed to play on the way out of the final dungeon, but we can just trigger it at the very start using the tech that he mentioned as well, and yeah, that will just set us right in kind of this final escape, final fight sequence without having to do any of that dungeon.
Alright, so I do still have sorcery robes on Frida, which is going to be necessary. Normally I'd buy armor there, but I just don't have the money. Just barely had enough to even get this rune blade. I need every point of strength I can get, because So there's one final fight here. It's meant to be a 1v1 duel with Adol versus the big bad of the game, who he put on the mask and he gained, giant final boss powers. And we defeat the final boss in another timeline, I guess. It's what happens in the games normally. But when you defeat him, his kind of phantom is possessed by the mask, and so now we just need to get rid of the mask because the mask is too powerful.
Yeah, and fortunately, this boss actually scales to your current level, so
a little bit. I still need every bit of strength that I have.
Of course, yeah.
So you might notice that there's a familiar, if you were paying attention during the cutscenes, blonde-haired girl. This is Lisa. She normally has an escort mission in the second to last dungeon of the game, but because we don't do that, the game needs to put her somewhere, and they put her in the final fight. She's a non-combatant who doesn't really do anything, but because they realized it would be annoying if she could die, she can't die in this fight.
I mean, arguably, it's annoying enough to try to go through every screen, and it's like, oh, you have to wait for her in the dungeon you're supposed to take her through.
Yeah, it's really annoying where she's supposed to, or the dungeon she's normally meant to be in.
Yeah.
However, in here she's actually surprisingly useful because she can heal us. I can still get utterly one-shot by this boss if he does the right attacks. So I need to flash guard that super or I'm dead.
Yep.
I also really prefer he doesn't hit Lisa with it because then he'll go into his finisher animation regardless. And while I can basically dodge it, it's still slow.
Yeah.
All right, we might just barely be underestimate. Thanks to Amerlin for adding an extra minute. Normally I submit this with a 44 minute because what happened with my money is not ever supposed to happen ever.
Yeah, that was definitely very strange, and I don't know what happened either, but yeah, good job figuring out how to get the sword anyway.
Alright, so once we finish with the boss here, time will be coming up on the fade to white after the boss. Alright.
Okay.
Alright, so we're gonna go throw the mask into the volcano. A scene's gonna play, and that'll be time here. In 3, 2, 1, time. Alrighty, my splits say 44-56, so we just barely squeaked under estimate. And somehow I think that was a valid run because I used saves that I generated with this run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, apologies. Thanks everyone for watching. It's just a very
bizarre situation.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. But that's just how marathon luck goes sometimes, and it's why you prepare and why you make backup saves and whatnot. I'm not going to take too much more of your time. I just got to give a couple of proper shout-outs. I did mention Jado. I was probably the second person to break this game. Huge shout-outs to Ravi, the first Japanese runner who really pushed this game down and came up with a lot of the strats that we use still in the run today. Shout-outs to the OG Vita runners, Tadata, Hakto, and Oblimix. Shout-outs to Primo. You came up with a number of strats still used in non-super glitchy any percent. Shoutouts to Zelnu and TuxDev, the other two of the first Western runners of this game to really put time in and help out. Shoutouts to Lost 1002 and Nazuna, two Japanese runners who really helped push this game down, and big shoutouts to Exeek, a Japanese runner who came up with a lot of the consistency strats on higher difficulties and really helped push this game, I think, down to its next level, which really motivated me to push this down. My PB in this game is a 37-18. 36 is kind of, I think, possible, but it would take a lot of work. You can find me at twitch.tv/GhostKumo. I stream a lot of East games whenever I have the urge to speedrun, among many other different types of games. That'll be it for me. Do you have any shout-outs, Primo?
No, I think you really covered it. I mean, thanks to you for putting it on. I know you've definitely put a lot of work and learned a lot about this game, so it was cool to see it and cool to see as well as just the execution, some, off the cuff thinking to recover some of the situations.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on commentary. So that'll do it for me. Once again, thanks everybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much, GhostKumo and Primorix. Sorry, not Primorix, because obviously Primorix has been banished forever. But thank you. And I totally agree. I think it's super cool when you get to see the improvised thinking from runners when something goes awry, especially in a marathon scenario. So thank you so much. And again, we got to say goodbye forever, GhostKumo. This is your one run for One-and-Done-athon. Never again are you going to be doing another run in this series of marathons. We really appreciate you with submitting your run. And now get excited, everybody, because the next run is going to be Metal Gear. MSX, I believe, is like the specific version of it. It's going to be a little bit different, a little bit interesting. It's being run on PS2 PAL, so check that one out. We'll be getting set up for that in the next few minutes, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.